Still in the car. This is the car that was in third position for GTE Pro. The specialist mechanic with the bald head and the glasses and the blue top still trying to do something, his specialist part of the car, in through the other door. But let's see how that one shakes out. Leading this race is still the two Toyotas. They are split by 36 seconds. The two Rebellions, third and fourth at present. Fifth overall, leading the LMP2 category nearly by a lap, is the G-Drive 26 ahead of the blue Signatech Alpine. Third in class is the Panis Barthez competition car. Will Stevens at the wheel for the time being. Then it's the IDEC car in fourth. Graf Racing, TDS, Jackie Chan, G-Drive, etc., etc. Leading the GTE Pro category, as we have seen of late, it is the number 92 Porsche. That's the pink one, ahead of the blue 91 one. Yeah, let's get that correct. Then we've got the BMW now up into third position ahead of the Ford, the Ferrari, the Ford, and the Vet. Look how close those guys are. Leading the GTE AM category is still the number 77 Dempsey Proton Racing car. That one is the one with the blue back end to it. Matt Campbell, Christian Reed and Julian Andlauer driving that car. They are 23 seconds ahead of the white JMW Motorsport car, Griffin, McNeil and Segal for the time being. We've had an LMP1 retire. That was the Bicoles Racing car coming together with lapping another car through the Porsche curves. We've lost the 94 GTE Pro 911 RSR, and we have also lost the LMP1 SMP racing car, number 17, after we believe some kind of failure rattling into the Porsche curves. Went into the barrier, got it going about 20 minutes later, but alas, it only lasted another 100 yards or so before the thing cried enough.
I'm still not convinced that was a failure.
I think it was.
You reckon?
Yeah.
That's what?
I think the way it went left, it was like a tank slip. No, it has to have been. Because if he was going to go off, he'd have just gone off and round
and spun,
turned left
round.
and spun, but he turned left, then turned right again.
But do you not think he lost it on the change of direction? You know what? He's come through the second left, and then just to the point where he's had to go the other way, he sort of lost it at that point.
No, I think he lost before he had to change direction. Right. He wasn't using enough road. You know, you'd have just run out of road.
Yeah.
He's an experienced enough driver to know that. To do that, yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get a word with him at some point before the end of the race. Try and find out. This is Will Stevens, the 23 car, the Alpine Signatech here, the 36 car. We're getting some slow-mo. Andre Negrão, the Brazilian, through the final chicane. Toby's making some hand movements. I have no idea what you're saying.
Second in class.
Oh, I see. That what you're saying.
It was a countdown kind of thing. Peter, you saw that SMP Racing LMP1 car try to get going. The sparks that came out of it, how bizarre were they?
Well, yeah, that makes me think even more that perhaps there was something a bit more to it than just driver error and the spin. Yeah, it just let go, didn't it? And all that smoke, yeah.
Not
just
right.
Very odd.
Not right.
Pizzatola here in the leading LMP2 car. You can see it's fantastic to see the flames on the overrun as they come into the braking zone for these chicanes, and the headlights now as they head down the Mulsanne straight. That car, 93, still in the pit. And Nick Tandy, he's still in the car, so he's not going anywhere anytime.
And the guy
out, actually. That's
the guy with
driver.
the blue sweater is nowhere to be seen now.
He's out the back finding the part, maybe. Who knows? Meanwhile, we're on board with the Signatech Alpine. This is second in class. Andre Negrão, the Brazilian, sharing with Lapierre and Thirier. Great sense of speed you get from that camera angle there, set quite back into the cockpit. The brake discs glowing as they go around Arnage, ahead of one of the new Aston Martins. We haven't seen much of them in this race, have we? The winning team in GTE Pro last year, but they've only done one endurance race so far. That was at Spa at the beginning of May. Big difference from Spa here to Le Mans.
It's quite telling, isn't it? You've got 8 cars on the lead lap, and the Aston's 2 laps down, and clearly this has been a very difficult debut for them. They're not happy with some of the regulations regarding their balance of performance, but you know, that's a car that's going to run for a few more years, isn't it? They're going to come back stronger next year. They'll have a better hold on where they are technically. And in terms of
this is all data gathering. And let's face it, you know, we got the 95 car up into 10th place now. If they were to continue running the way they're running, they will come up further.
Yeah, the only counter-argument, Peter, I suppose, is the BMW argument, which is the fact they're here with a new car and they're running in 3rd place, a second off one of the world's Porsches. And so, you know, it's a tricky one, isn't it, just for people at home to understand, because we're obviously highlighting the issues that Aston have got, but then equally BMW have been impressive, and that, in a way, does it highlight how complicated it is, the balance of performance thing, and how do you judge a car when it hasn't actually raced before? It is tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors. For instance, you've got the cars like the Corvettes that run in America, and you know, the ones that run in the WEC Championship, and then the new cars in this year, obviously, and they all have to be brought together for this one event and leveled off, and that cannot be an easy job to do. And there's a lot of telemetry that's analysed by the governing body, and they don't always get it right.
We were talking about it with Lena Gade when she came up to the commentary box 3 or 4 hours ago now, and I was talking about a conversation that I had with one of the FIA guys who's responsible for this balance of performance, and it was back at Monza at the beginning of last season for the World Endurance Championship. And he was a harried man even before the season got underway. It's an unwinnable war with politics and lawyers and, oh, I deserve this and I deserve that. But it's the way it is, and they've got a transparent way of doing it, and that's what they got. We're on board with 3rd in class. That's 2nd in class in front of us. I remind you, leader of GTE Pro is still 1:21 further up the road.
I can't believe it's only gone midnight now. The race goes a lot slower when you're not driving. Mind you, on the upside, I have had fish and chips for dinner, which I wouldn't have had if I was. So that is pluses and minuses.
A very English meal in the middle of France.
Well, that's what they were serving at a catering tent. So, you know, when in France, eat an English meal. Yeah. So Philip Eng here. Let's get back to the racing. I'm going off on a tangent.
Blathering.
I am. Yeah, Philip Eng right up behind Fred Machiavecchi. Now that BMW, Toby, we talked about it earlier, had very good straight line speed, didn't it? But despite the, you know, visually looks like a bigger car with a bigger surface area cutting a hole through the air, and Philip Eng is flashing his lights at Fred Machiavecchi, who is not going to let him pass because this is a race for position.
It's just trying to put him off. Yeah. I mean, I don't agree with that. I wouldn't do that. It kind of, it demeans you as a driver. You don't need to do that. Just pass him fair and square if you need to pass him.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think, you know, it's just going to annoy Machiavecchi more than anything else, isn't he?
Peter, what's the advancements of light technology in recent years? I mean, these LED lights, you can pick a fly off the moon with these lights at the moment compared with the old bulbs that they had when you started. I mean, it is quite some development.
It is, and you know, they spend a fair bit of time just making sure you've got the full spectrum in front of you. They've got to do a bit of dark testing and make sure it's all right. But yeah, like anything, like the tires, like the engine, all technology moves forward, and the lights have moved forward as well. So just vision in general is so much better out of these cars.
And what's it like around the Nürburgring, around the Nordschleife in the dark? Is it?
It's the same. It's actually no problem at all. You can, you know, it's difficult if you're going to go straight into the nighttime and you haven't driven before. So if you've had car troubles and you're basically going straight into the night, that's more difficult. But if you've got your kind of your bearings, yes, in the light conditions, and then you get into the dark, it's so much easier. And these guys have all driven in the light conditions, so no problem for them, and they're going quick.
Yeah,
you know, they're doing 52s, 51s.
But their eyes have adjusted now, haven't they? They've either gone into the twilight or they've been driving around the dark. And you're right, the first couple of laps, especially I think on Wednesday night, when you get in the car Wednesday night here at Le Mans, and it's the first night session. You haven't driven here for a year.
It can be daunting.
It's pretty daunting when you're, in a prototype out the back in the forest, heading towards Indianapolis. You can't really see the apex very well because the road dips away. It does take you a few laps before you think, you know what, I'm going to attempt this in top gear without a brake, and it's not something you're going to go out and do on the first lap.
We're just riding on board there with the number 36 Signatec Alpine. Andre Negrão still at the wheel. I wish we could have a bit more of that on board, because it just seems to wobble a bit. It just seems to be a bit more real. You can see the way that the driver's crash helmet has been thrown around as he's over the bumps on the far end of the circuit. It's not too perfect a picture. It's the article that was in Autosport the other week about the Senna camera wobble. From 20 years ago, the pictures just seemed quicker, even though the cars were slower than today. It's a great angle. I love that one. They've got it really good, really right. Love it.
Did you notice how clean the Toyota is? And I'm just thinking, I think back to the cars that you would see finish Le Mans covered in oil and muck and rubber, and they go to the museums like that, don't they? Whether it's Porsche or Audi or whatever, and that car looks like it's been polished at every single pit stop.
But there's one thing that the two Toyotas don't do. They don't sit behind other cars for very long, so they don't get the bits of rubber thrown up so much. Maybe, we saw one of the GTE Pro Porsches coming in. It was plastered because, by definition, these two GTE cars are stuck behind each other for lap after lap after lap after lap. They get the stones, they get the muck, other people's rubber being thrown up and all sorts. So maybe that's a choice, maybe that's an option. Maybe they've had a new nose. I mean, when these cars go into the museum, they're all kept with the flies and the bugs on. The winning Le Mans BMW from '99 had the flies and all the muck lacquered in.
Yeah.
So it's been kept forever. Oh, there's a mosquito. Oh, there's a mayfly. Squash, lacquered in.
93 car there, and your mate, the blue sweater man, was back in the garage, I noticed, with a big cable and a laptop. So clearly some big issues going on there. Will Stevens, by the way, is just set the fastest lap for his car. He's in second place in the Panis Barthez competition. Ligier, so that's an impressive performance from Ligier. Last year they came here, they were a long way behind Orica. Well, I was one of them. We were all a long way. I think the best Ligier was 4 seconds slower than the best Orica. And this year they're running in second place. They qualify within half a second. So clearly the ACO allowed Ligier to put on an updated package outside the homologation. And they've done a good job with it, because their whole lineup of cars have all made a decent step forward this year. Yeah,
and clearly Will Stevens has got his eye in the dark conditions as well. So, and bearing in mind, as it gets cooler, the engines get stronger, so they gain a bit of speed. And once you've done a couple of laps on the tires, they're fully up to temperature. So it's actually a very quick time.
Leader having a nose change, so it's going to be even shinier for you. They've stopped very far back because that camera, if it's for that particular garage, is not getting the car fully in. No, that's the right garage. That's the right slot. I think the director chose the wrong overhead camera.
Exactly.
Sorry. Got it right in the end. So Mike Conway makes his way back out. He has a lead of about a minute and a half or so as this battle for second and third rages in GTE Pro.
It was nice to see Mike carrying a tribute to Justin Wilson on his helmet, actually. I noticed the sticker there, which is a nice touch there from Mike Conway.
Stefan Wilson having led the Indy 500, his brother, with what, 9-10 laps to go this year. 4 laps to go, sorry, and he just had to come in for a splash and dash into that Honda engine. But I was on the edge of my seat. I don't often shout at the television, believe it or not, but I was there.
I'm not sure I believe that. But yeah, we had the entire, it was after the Monaco Grand Prix, and the entire Formula One paddock was in the lounge at Nice Airport after another French airstrike, believe it or not.
Yes, I do.
And all hankered over a single laptop and shouting and cheering it on. And yeah, it was a little bit of a shame that didn't quite work out for him there. But anyway, here we go. This is the number 34 car in the pits. Ricky Taylor, the American, who's come over, doing a lot of racing out there in the IMSA series, and has done a lot of racing over the years in the IMSA series, and he's come over to Le Mans with Jackie Chan DC Racing in their Ligier.
He's the driver that's driven all 4 of the LMP2 chassis that you are able to enter into World Endurance Championship racing. So he's driven the Riley, he's driven the Orica, he's driven the Ligier, and here he is.
He's driven the Dallara as well.
And he's on the Dallara as well. Yeah. So he's got the full spread.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll have a cup of tea for that.
Well, I think McNish's round, isn't it? I feel like I've done 3 or 4
Is he asleep in the corner? It looks like he's asleep in the corner there.
He's just pretending to be asleep.
He's got his. He's still hugging his Scottish chocolates or whatever, but he's refusing to make the tea.
Scottish chocolates.
Right, stop and go for car 48 and car 8 for speeding in a safe zone. So the second place man, Sebastian Buemi, has a stop and go penalty for 60 seconds, a full minute. When Alan was on the mic before you came in, Peter, we had a message from Buemi himself, a little bit but with his tail between his legs over the radio to the team saying, I think I was speeding in a slow zone, and that has now been confirmed.
And also, Toby, that's 60-second stop, but he's also got to crawl through the pit lane, and that we're looking at probably a minute and 10, minute and 20, I would have thought.
Yeah,
something like that, minute and 20. So he's now 37 seconds behind Mike Conway. So this is going to push them over 2 minutes down.
And the car that's 4th in the LMP2 class has also got that 60-second stop-go penalty. That's the 40.
No, I'm not sure you're...
It says it over there.
It says decision 48, car 8.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Back in your box, Moody. Let's listen.
Okay, Sebastian, we got stop and go 60 seconds. Stop and go 60 seconds for speeding in slow zone.
I would have loved to have heard the reply there, because he was getting quite punchy on the radio, wasn't he? Talking about, let me go quicker, I'm on the better tires, this and he was getting... And the team actually said, just calm down, stop talking about the race situation, we're managing it, think about things like the slow zone. And those are the things, Toby, we talked about earlier. How it's the penalties that'll trip you up. It's not actually all the other stuff, because the Toyota's got the pace. They can drive at 90% and win the race. They're 3 laps ahead of everybody else now. It's those sort of silly things that will trip you up.
Yeah. And he probably did reply, but as you guys know, if you say rude words, then they know they can't be broadcast.
Yeah.
Because those radio messages, just to be clear to people watching, they're not absolutely live. There's a couple of guys in the TV area that listening to radio, and then they clip them, pick them out, replay them immediately. But of course, if there's rude words, by definition, they're on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, they should be bleeping those out and playing them up.
Okay, number 93, the car that was in 3rd position with Nick Tandy, has hopefully got sorted. That's what the Porsche GT guys hope from the Core Autosport squad. They take it off the jacks, they release the air. Will it fire up? Yes, it does, and the flat 6 makes its way out of pit lane. They've lost an enormous amount of laps. They're outside the top 15. That's their podium position gone.
So the big battle between Philippe Machiavecchi still ongoing, out on track. I'm trying to see if there's any other really close battles. Philippe Albuquerque is reasonably close behind Ricky Taylor, but we're on board the Sebastian Buemi car. This is the big story we've got at the moment, and Buemi is going to have to put the hammer down here to make up for some lost time.
And the tail between his legs, well, you'll see that, won't you? Dear, oh dear, how it comes back to bite you. So just to recap, it's the car in 2nd position in this Le Mans 24 hours. We're just gone 12:15 here local time. We're 9 hours into this race. Buemi at the moment is 36 seconds behind the sister car of Mike Conway, plus the 60-second stop-go penalty, plus slowing down, going through pit lane, plus speeding back up again. 3rd overall is the number 3 Rebellion. 4th overall is the number 1 Rebellion. Then we've got the first LMP2 car in 5th position overall. That is the GE Drive Racing Orica. It's Pizzitola at the wheel at the moment. He is another couple of laps back of the second rebellion. So just to recap, it's LMP1 in the first 4 positions, then the leading LMP2 in 5th.
What bets on an LMP2 on the podium this year?
Oh, all day, every day, Karan. All day, every day.
Maybe even 2 of them.
Yeah. I mean,
I would not bet against a P2 winning.
Ooh,
there's a brave one.
that's a brave one.
Hey, we're not even halfway. We're not even halfway. And how many of the P1s have been eliminated already?
Most.
We started with 10, and we've now got 4.
There you go.
There's a good one. Good stat.
60% gone.
Kevin Estre gets ready to take over from Laurens van Tor. He has a lead of 1 minute and 24 seconds.
Which car is he getting into, Toby? Remind me.
He's getting into the number 92 Porsche 911 RSR, Karan Chandok.
Any nicknames for it?
The Truffle Hunter. Das Truffle Hunter. Jaeger something or other it would be in German.
Valme on the front of his top? What does that stand for? What does that mean? Is that a part of the pig? Or?
Part of the course it is, yeah.
I feel like you've spent more time in Germany than the two of us.
Yeah,
so
but
I
don't know that word.
Right,
you just know how to order beer, don't you?
Hang on a minute. Here comes Sebastian Buemi coming down pit lane for his 60-second stop-go penalty.
As a reminder, the team can't do any work on the car. This is a penalty, so they can't do fuel, they can't do tyres. I don't know if they're even allowed to clean the windscreen.
No, yeah, they're not allowed to touch it, are they?
Can't touch it, yeah. So
Can they wait the 60 seconds and then work on it?
Well, that's a good question. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. No, I think this has to be an isolated stop.
Yeah.
Because then the slowing down and speeding up would be integrated.
This must feel like an eternity.
It will.
Yeah.
It will.
Absolutely.
And when you've made the error as well.
Oh.
And there is the number 3 car. That's in 3rd position. We are at FL on the map.
Toby, yeah, sorry.
But it's 3 laps down, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what this reminds me of. In 15, do you remember when Porsche came back and they got the 1-2 and the Brendan Hartley, Mark Webber, Timo Bernhard car was looking really good, and then Brendan got a 1 minute penalty and that dropped them that 2 minutes gap, which they never ever recovered, and in the end it was the other car that ended up winning the race. And that penalty was the turning point for the Webber Hartley Bernhard car, and I wonder if we're going to see another scenario like that here today.
The pit in his stomach, the guilt factor will not be nice.
What he needs to do though is forget all about it. That was in the past. He needs to crack on, do a good job from here on in, and just set some decent times.
Yeah, 1 minute 35 he has lost during that process. A lot of chit-chat going on here, isn't there?
Now,
and the mechanics giving him information.
No, the radio comms issue. Pascal Vasselon's got some sort of radio issue, and they're all just
throw it away, get another one.
Fix his radio.
Throw it away, get another one. In the greater scheme of things, doesn't matter in the budget.
2 minutes 9 now in the lead for Mike Conway here. So
he's not hanging around.
No, but he's sensing an opportunity, isn't he? He's sensing an opportunity to put daylight between him and the other car. I would if I were him.
And if the decision came to reverse them, it would be the harder he makes it for them, the better, as far as he's concerned.
If I was Conway and Kobayashi and Lopez in that car, I'd be cracking on right now, trying to make hay. And just as you say, if you make a gap that's 2-3 minutes, then it's a hard decision for the team not to back you as the winning car.
Yeah. And then if you look at Buemi from the other side of the coin, he's got to push on and take maybe a little bit more risk to close that gap back up again.
Let's go back to 2009, was it, off the top of my head? 3 Peugeots. It was the 3rd Peugeot that won the race.
Yeah,
the 2 that were favoured. Can I say that? Yes, I can. Didn't get to the finish in the position that maybe the French were hoping for.
Yeah, I mean it was the year David won. I think it was Alex Burtz and Marc Genet, wasn't it, in that car?
Correct.
But their engineer Pierre Genon had chicken pox. He was so ill. He struggled through the race. but you know, lo and behold, when the time came in the morning, they were the ones there.
Exactly, exactly. The Rebellion guys look on as we come back on board with the leader of this race. We are with the Brit, Mike Conway. Building up speed to over 200 miles an hour, 320 kilometers an hour down the back section. The Rebellion guys look as if they're preparing for one of their cars to come into the pits. We're riding on board with the #1 car. This is Andre Lotterer driving, ducking behind one Porsche, ducking behind a Ford into the second chicane on the Mulsanne straight. In already makes his way around there. The GT cars try and follow. And away goes that Rebellion. Look at him coming up behind one. That's the Aston Martin #90. That's the TF Sport car. Eastwood, Charlie Eastwood at the wheel at the moment. Down in towards the Mulsanne corner. Hard on the brakes, glowing brake discs. Sort of 800 degrees Celsius, I think they touch. Help me out here. 750, 800.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Something like that, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, for the brakes. I mean, they don't work under 400, so you know you have to get them to that sort of minimum temperature before they even start working. And to be honest, the peak doesn't really matter. It's the temperature before you hit the peak. That's the actual critical temperature you need to have the bite. Yeah, to have the bite. As soon as you hit the brake pedal, you need it to be sitting in the high 300s really for it to do anything.
4.5 litre V8 Gibson mounted behind Andre Lotterer as opposed to the 4.2 that is in the LMP2 cars. This is an Orica chassis. It's very similar to an LMP2 car, but it's just got that beefier bits here and there and so everywhere else.
Have we got Lotterer now catching Laurent to try and unlap himself? Is that what's happening here?
No, that's a P2 United car.
I just saw the graphic below. I just wondered whether that was what was going on. Because Lotterer seems to be travelling 4 seconds a lap faster than Laurent.
Laurent at the moment on the racetrack is,
just to let you all know at home,
coming into Mulsanne.
Just let you know, Toby's looking at a driver tracker and we can't actually find it. Is so confusing on there.
There's so many cars on there, yeah.
No, he is coming. Hang on.
That's Lotterer you're pointing at.
Yeah, he is coming up to unlap himself. The teammate car, #3, is only a couple of corners ahead of him. Even closer than that, I'd hazard a guess. He'll see him when he comes over the crest. He'll see his teammate in front of him when he comes over the crest.
Laurent's had a slow lap, hasn't he? Very slow lap. 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Off the pace. I don't think it's an issue, but he's 5 seconds off the Lotterer car pace, and he's 5 seconds off his own pace as well.
Is that experience or?
No, he was in the 23s earlier. That's what I mean. I wonder if there's something abnormal happening. And there's
Kevin Estra getting ready.
Yeah.
There is the #99. That is the Proton competition car. Patrick Long, Tim Pappas and Spencer Pompelli. And you can certainly see that one coming. The champion Porsche, the champion squad that used to work with Audi. Stateside, mechanics trying to get a bit of sleep. And the car bursts into life and gets on its way with new rubber. We are midnight here at Le Mans. Wherever you are in the world, do keep in touch with us. We've got Peter Dumbreck, Karen Chanduk up here in the commentary box. I'm going to have another half an hour, and I'm going to be handing over to Martin Haven, who has come in to make some coffee for his night shift. Julian Porter will be coming back into the commentary box as well. There is the run down to Indianapolis. Look how they illuminate the trees here in France. That is the GTE AM leader howling past our camera. Great stuff with the Dempsey Proton Porsche #77. That has a lead of some 51 seconds ahead of the JMW Ferrari. Cooper McNeil at the wheel there. and then the other Dempsey Proton Racing Porsche is in third. The BMW boys, the M-Tech guys, look on. Putting the fuel in, controlled fuel flow rate for everybody, so nobody has an advantage here or there. Let's have a quick rundown. 2 minutes and 10 seconds now, the lead of the number 7 Toyota of Mike Conway, ahead of Sebastian Buemi. Buemi has had a 60-second stop-go penalty, and that has dropped him from 30 seconds behind to over 2 minutes behind his teammate. Leading the LMP2 battle, it is still the G-Drive number 26 of Pizzitola, ahead of the Signatec Alpine, ahead of the Panis Barthez car. In the GTE Pro category, it is the pink Porsche that leads still, minute and a half, give or take, ahead of the blue retro livery Porsche of Franco Makovici. It's the BMW of the Austrian, Philipp Eng, who is the number 81. He's in third at the moment. GTE Am, I've just told you about that. Porsche from Ferrari from Porsche. That is how it stands here. We are just gone beyond halfway, half an hour past midnight. Put my teeth in. 9.5 hours into this 24-hour race. Martin Haven.
Is the dog not wanting those teeth back? We are, as Toby says, 9.5 hours in, half past midnight. That's half past 22:30 GMT. Wherever you are, thank you for being with us. We will continue through the night like everybody else. We're into doubles now to allow our teammates to get a bit of rest. And talking of teammates, Alan McNish and Tom Christensen, who won together, are reunited with Dr. Ulrich and Howden Haynes, their engineer on the car. And Dindo Capello, the only one of the team, including mechanics, who's not here at Le Mans this weekend. So they're having a little bit of a team reunion, probably up on Alan's balcony overlooking the track. Let's hear from the 81 BMW.
Yeah, there is something wrong with the car, I think front left. Copy, try to make it back, box. Copy.
Now, the 81 car has already had a front left damper changed, and I wonder whether that is the same.
And they just had that Ferrari shoot past them, so they're going slower already through Indianapolis. So there is a problem right away with the third car in GTE Pro.
It wasn't the 81 car, because they're still third. It was the 82 car that was third.
Sorry.
That is the car of Augusto Farfus, who's just left the pits because Antonio Felix da Costa brought it in with the damper issue, and that was about 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
It was left front damper. Wouldn't be a surprise, although he said it's not a problem they've ever had before. Wouldn't be surprised if one's gone, that the other one has the same issue.
The lead car in GTE Pro gets on its way. So Vantor gets out, Kevin Estra gets in. We're riding on board with a Porsche because it sounds that way. Yes, we are. It's the guy who is second in class. Chasing. This is Frank Makovici. He's going to be coming in. Yes, he is. I suspected as such. It's the 14 laps that the GTE Pro and GTE Am cars are allowed to do. 14, no more. Down to the 60 kilometers an hour, 36 miles an hour into pit lane. So one car has done its stop and gone, and the other car is only just coming in. That's the lead difference.
Yeah, these two Porsches are showing remarkable reliability. Don't forget, it was a brand new car produced, I know, but produced last year. But not only are they fast, they are just starting to really creep away from the opposition.
Ricard Lietz gets in, the Austrian, taking the place of the Frenchman in that number 91 car.
You know, the thing that I wonder about is, you know, there's more and more cars coming in with turbo engines, more things that could possibly go wrong. The Porsche, no turbo in that one yet. Corvette, no turbo, usually pretty reliable.
Which Porsche doesn't have a turbo?
That one.
Does?
No.
No.
Doesn't it?
No.
No.
No. Why does it sound so good? Because it hasn't got a blower on it. Ba-bum.
A lot of funny turbo fires last year. I will go and find out. I was convinced it was a mid-engined 911 turbo. Despite well, the BMW sounds great despite the fact that it's turbocharged. The Aston doesn't sound bad despite the fact that it's turbocharged. However, the BMW in the pit lane, that's the 81 that radioed in with a problem earlier on. It's already lost a podium spot. In it goes.
Was that fluid already on the ground there, or is that new fluid that's down there?
Now look what's down there. There's a tray to replace the right front brake. You won't do one, so they'll be looking at doing the front brakes while the car is in there. Go ahead.
4-litre flat six.
Non-turbocharged.
Non-turbocharged.
All right, fair enough. Your brain misleads you sometimes. I can see Louise Beckett lurking. I wonder if she's got an interview for us. No driver change. Andre Lotterer stays in. Thomas Laurent has just changed. So the number 3 and the number 1 car now up to 3rd and 4th. Rebellions, as we expected they would do, battling for a position on the podium. And that, of course, is because of that huge high-speed off for the SMP 17 car. And, Peter, we were watching that while we were enjoying a little bit of interstint cheese. Fromage. Indeed, and it had, actually that massive tank slapper had all the hallmarks of a left rear suspension failure starting it rather than being the result of it.
Yeah, we came back in and we're talking with Karun, and yeah, mixed opinions between us, but I thought so, and hopefully at some stage Louise could get to that pit and find out for sure so we can put our minds at rest. But the thing is, I'm not sure they're going to be all that happy to talk to you. I think that's probably going to be such a sore subject at the moment.
Well, you know, it's Louise's job to get in there and ask the hard questions. That's why she's tall and tough.
Okay, the BMW M-Tech guys getting ready with a new right front disc with the caliper. They'll just get that all sorted, and again on the left front as well.
Yeah, well, you'll never change one.
No,
you won't change
two
one
at the same time.
My Mercedes, to come down here, I just did this service. It's everything. You know when you get one of those service sheets and they've got every possible box? They were all ticked. This is what they're doing. It's coming with that left front corner problem, but they're doing some monster housekeeping as well. I think they slightly think they've still got a shot at a podium with those BMWs. And if they don't have too much of a delay, then they might as well. But also, you've got to try and make sure that you're doing the very best for the car that you can. And so if it's coming in for one issue at the front, let's do the brake change. It takes no time at all.
So then that BMW has lost that 3rd position in class. It's still Kevin Estre in the pink car that leads. 1 minute and 7 seconds now ahead of the Chip Ganassi Ford, but the Ford has got to do another stop. It's going to do a stop in a minute.
And I tell you what, it's not only lost 3rd place, this class is so flipping tight, it's already down to 8th.
Here is that Ford coming in, Martin. It is Sebastian Bourdais at the wheel, so it's going to shunt out that Richard Leach, the Austrian, will go back up into 2nd place. Here are the Ford guys waiting for that Ford GT to arrive.
Don't forget, it was Bourdais and his teammates who won for Ford on their return to Le Mans 50 years after the win of the original win of the GT40. That programme itself spurred on by a late change of heart from Enzo Ferrari, who was due to sell the company to Henry Ford, and then decided in a way that was familiar to everybody who worked with him that, in fact, he was going to go his own way, plough his own furrow. And in frustration and annoyance, Henry Ford said, right, what is going to annoy him most? I'm going to go and spank him at what he does best, and that is, in those days, sports car racing and winning Le Mans and Daytona and so on was at least as important to Ferrari as winning in Formula One. And so they commissioned a program to take on Ferrari at Le Mans. And this is the 3rd generation legacy of that program, the Ford GT that won 2 years ago. So Bourdais goes out, and look, 81 from 3rd, a lap down now, down to 9th.
Yeah,
that's so tight.
You blink. You blink.
And yet there's his dad, there's Bourdais' dad, himself a racer, and he was a very familiar sight around the junior single-seater paddocks. Remember him down at Silverstone when Sebastian Bourdais won, what was, I think at the time, his first ever Formula 3000 race, and the two of them, one on the podium and one down below, absolutely in floods.
Brilliant.
Just joyful. And as you can see from his father's face, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. He could never have disowned his son.
Same optician as well with those glasses.
Exactly.
Still leading this motor race is the number 7 Toyota. It has a lead of just over 2 minutes from Sebastian Buemi, who has had his 60-second drive-through penalty. The Rebellions are 3rd and 4th. Only 4 LMP1 cars at the sharp end of this race. Then it is the army of LMP2 cars that are 5th, 6th onwards.
Well, let's bring everybody up to speed with what's gone wrong with LMP1. Predominantly, the answer is the cars are brand new. They've never raced before this year at Le Mans, and they only raced once before in Spa. And in the case of the 2 Ginetta cars run by Manor, they didn't race even there. So we've got the top 4 cars, which are the 2 Rebellions and the 2 Toyotas. Rebellion, very experienced team, although the chassis is new to them. They've run in LMP1 before, they ran in P2 for the last couple of years. They're a hugely experienced team, so they seem to be doing about the best job at the moment. The next best car in 5th in LMP1 is being driven by Ollie Rowland, and that's the number 6 Ginetta, and that is in 32nd place. The recovering number 10 Dragon Speed Dallara, that's been driven by Ben Hanley. That's right behind him in 33rd. In fact, there's less than half a minute between the two of them. The number 5 Ginetta, that's had its own problems, and that is a further 2 laps behind. So the number 5 Ginetta has completed nearly 130 laps. The leader's done over 140. And then the 2 SMP Racing cars, 11 is recovering from absolutely last after an electrical issue on the very first lap. Michael Alishin has just left the pits in that car that Jenson Button is driving as well. And Matevos Isakayan, the car that was 3rd and leading the charge after the Toyotas, that had a high-speed lose down in the Porsche curves, and that was a suspension breakage, and that put that out of the race.
The marker of doom needs to come out, and I'm afraid cross that car out. In the meantime,
I think so, yes. Because, and the other, just to round out, the very final car in LMP1 was the number 4 by Collins Racing Team, and again, high-speed accident for that car in the Porsche curves, and that car is out of the race. So I'm going to nephew of Marker of Doom strikes off. Oh, you can even hear the effects.
The squeak.
Strikes off the number 17 car, and that is really
98 as
and
well.
98. The AM class Aston Martin that was being driven by Paul Dalla and it had what would appear to have been either a throttle jam or a total brake failure. It just speared straight off at the Porsche curves, made no attempt to go through, and that car makes it our 3rd retirement, I think.
The number 81 BMW that is in the garage at the moment, that pit stop is under investigation whilst Martin was taking us through the unfortunate non-runners in this 2018 Le Mans 24-hour race. So they've done something wrong. As if it wasn't wrong enough mechanically, it's wrong enough with the rules. So they're not having a great last 20 minutes, are they?
I wonder what it was.
Spinning in a pit lane, too many people working on it on the apron.
line.
You know, it's one of those two, really, isn't it? It won't have been might have been a refueling issue, but I think, not sure if they refueled it before it went back into the garage.
Was the earth connected? All these kind of things. Who knows? But here they are. They're still working on the car. New brake discs going on the front because Philip Eng reported in by radio there's something wrong with the front of the car. The mechanic said just get it in, get it home. And they know about endurance racing. They know about getting it done as quick as possible. This is a big garage, remember. There is no wall between this one and the other one. There's another garage, which the Bumblebee car, as I call it, the number 56 Team Project 1 Porsche is in. You can't open both doors at the same time because you can hardly open them. It's that narrow. They're new to Le Mans and they might have got the short end of the stick for the number 56 Porsche, but these works teams, they just get a bit more space.
The other thing they might have done actually is put a little viewing corridor in down the side, and that removes some of the room as well. You see that in a couple. There's
what it is. It's the little walkway to go under the tunnel. That's what's taken the 4-foot space out.
They're in a narrow unit.
Yes.
Well, mechanics like drivers need their rest, and getting even 15 minutes of shut-eye between the times the car comes in might be the difference between threading a wheel nut on and keeping the wheel on, and not threading a wheel nut on and losing a wheel. So the mechanics, I mean, I always say it's a 36-hour race. For the mechanics, it's very close to a 48-hour day, and that's trouble for number 6, Ginetta. That is rolling slowly down the straight. Ollie Rowland has now been passed by Ben Hanley in the number 10 Dragon Speed car. And in fact, he hasn't quite got to the straight, has he? He pulls into the barriers at Tete Rouge.
You can see the turbo glowing because the stubby exhausts that are only about 10 centimetres long appear from the rear of the engine cover, either side of the spine of the car. So the turbo is right in there. It's glowing red hot, even white hot when it's at full whack. And that's at the beginning of the Mulsanne straight, and it looks like the race is over.
Well, we've seen the Ginettas stop several times, and actually a couple of times they've said to us, the car just turned itself off, basically. And again, you know, new car problems. They haven't had much testing, they haven't raced before, and so these are all the things that if it had the weight of Audi or Porsche's budget behind it, would have been ironed out in numerous, you know, weeks of pounding around somewhere like Paul Ricard.
It's a common, in that situation, you switch your starter off, you switch the main switch off, main switch back on, starter back on, and then try to fire the engine.
Yeah, we always say, you know, it's like your computer control alt delete. Have you tried turning it off and on again, sir? You know,
yeah, sometimes it is literally that easy. But the more you get used to the car, the more you learn that you can actually do it as you're rolling. So I'm sure he would have tried that by now. So it could be a bit more than that now.
Well, some of our 1,610 marshals helping him there. 35 of them in fast response pickups, 125 in the pits, working in shifts like everybody else. And the marshals here this year come from 20 different nationalities. So 350 non-French marshals on various different posts, including a whole bunch from the UK who regularly come here from all over Europe. And we got them from as far away as India, Russia, Australia, and from countries as diverse in size as Russia and Monaco. And without them, the men and women in orange, without the fast response units, the rescue units, the doctors, the paramedics, the safety car drivers, and everybody in an orange fireproof suit, there would be no race. Not here, not nowhere else.
Mike Conway makes his way out of Arnage, going up towards the Porsche curves. He leads this race by 2 minutes and 7 seconds here as we are coming up to 10-1 after a 3 o'clock start. We're 9 hours and 47 minutes into the 2018 Le Mans 24 hours. Through the Porsche curves, a lot cooler. We've got the door open to the commentary box. It's a lot cooler. We certainly need to cool this commentary box down during the day, but certainly not during the night, as Mike Conway completes another lap. In fact, it is lap number 158 that he completes here as he comes up behind one of the Ford GTs. Doesn't spend long behind that because it's got about 900, nearly 1,000 horsepower by the time the hybrid power kicks in.
Yeah, those cars come off the corner like they've been fired off the deck of an aircraft carrier. And you can see even there, braking in extremis, changing his line to go around the Ferrari. Barely any flinch at all from the chassis. These cars must feel just so planted on the road. We're at the stage now where cars can generate so much downforce, Peter, that actually the human body is continually struggling to keep up. And so we always talk about you guys like you and these guys being racing drivers. In fact, actually, you're basically gym bunnies who occasionally, for light relief, are allowed in a racing car. And that's the percentage of how the job works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are super fit. And, you know, it's a bit like any other sport where, you know, you take an athlete, a runner. They will keep training, running every day, maybe have the odd day off, and it would be that kind of training. Quite often, as a driver, you have days and days and days off. And all you can then do is do sports in the gym, cycling, running, whatever, and then you finally get back in the car again, and it's the neck generally, especially in these high downforce cars, that you feel the most. and you sort of build up the strength of that neck. But a few days off, and you need to rebuild it up again. You know, it's a moving target. So. Yeah, you know, after this race, they'll probably not get back in the car for a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer, because it's quite a big break to the next round of the championship.
And this is one of the things that is going on behind the scenes, is the drivers are constantly being worked on by physios, by masseurs, to try and keep the body in good condition. Because if you're struggling physically, then your brain adjusts and spends too much time looking after the body when it should be stopping the car from crashing. So having that, you know, it's like being any kind of Olympic athlete, constantly being pummeled and pounded and massaged and pushed back into the right place before you get a rest. If I was talking to the guy who's working with the Dragon Speed team, he said, you know, with Ben Hanley and Gator van der Garde, they're quite used to it. They're used to this thing. But Henrik Hedman, who is a businessman, who races cars as a hobby, as so many of the gentlemen drivers do, said he's quite reticent and really not used to being massaged. You know, it's not a regular part of his life. Whereas for these drivers, like for you, every time you get out of the car, pretty much, you're used to that happening. Yeah. And so it's the second time he's worked with the team. Now he's gradually starting to get Henrik to treat it as of much a part of it as wearing a hands device is having the massage the moment you get out of the car, and just and actually telling him what feels wrong with him, because you know the human instinct is, oh, so I'm a bit achy but I'm fine, I'm a bit achy but I'm fine. But for drivers of cars of this sort of ability, a bit achy is actually possibly not fine, and you need to get it sorted out rather than, you know, struggle on with it.
It's only going to build up, that's the thing, and it's going to affect your driving, as you put it, you know. So, you know, when you're out of the car, you do a lot of training, you know, a lot of upper body stuff and core fitness, cardio. So, you know, it's a full-time job from that point of view. So, yeah, as you say, if you're a businessman and you've got other interests, you neglect those side of things, when really you should be doing more of them, because you're the sort of amateur driver in the car. And, you know, Hedlund's chosen to go to a P1. He's driving a P1 car, which is the most physical of them all. So it's, you know, respect to him for that.
Absolutely. Well, we've just seen Michaela Leishin squirting out of the Dunlop curve behind the number 26 G-Drive car. Andrea Pizzatola straight out of the pit lane, staying in the G-Drive car that leads in LMP2. And Michaela Leishin coming up behind him, and the car of the Russian driver, the SMP car, sideways out of the Dunlop curve as he tried to get the power down and get the run before they got into the S's. Matthias Besch takes over from Thomas Laurent at Rebellion. That's the number 3 car. This is our 3rd placed car. And the number 1 Rebellion, after that problem right at the beginning, where Andre Lotter made contact with one of the Toyotas in the very first corner of the race, that is in 4th position. And it seems, as we reported earlier, that photographs that have been seen that were taken early in the race, and I'm not sure whether they were actually going away from the grid or on the formation lap, show that the number 1's nose was not quite connected the way it should do, i.e. there was probably a gap in the bodywork. So it may be that Andre Lotter was entirely innocent, and they're just, the nose dropped coming into the first turn, and there wasn't the downforce he needed. And on the formation lap behind the safety car doing 80 kilometers an hour, you're not going to notice that, because there's not enough downforce or not enough air pressure to actually move the nose.
Exactly. I mean, Andre's a very experienced driver, very confident around here. He's a winner 3 times already, so yeah, it's unlike him to make that kind of error. Yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't bet against something being up with the car, and as you say, at 80k an hour, you just wouldn't know. No,
although I have to say, in Formula E, Andre Lotter has had some damaging incidents this year so far. Indebted to...
Well, he's a rookie Formula E driver, so, you know, it's again a different kettle of fish. He's on Michelin Cup 2 tyres. He's on a road tyre, going from a high grip. You know, he's driven Super Formula,
Formula
GT.
One, Audi Le Mans cars.
So he's in the lowest grip car that he's probably ever driven. So
That's 900 kilos.
Yeah, absolutely. In comes the second place car. This is Julien Canal in the Panis Barthez machine that has sort of leapfrogged the Cineotech Alpine number 36 car. Juju stays in, and bless you, and I think he is likely to return. No, he's already being passed by Pierre Thirier. 81 having more work. I think this is where we need to send Louise to try and get an answer. She's already done the hard yakka with Antonio Felix da Costa with the other car. Now the 81 car has had a much longer stop, and that is, well, actually it's 12th in class.
And it's odd that it's been worked on in the garage and now they're working on it on the pit lane apron. So it's as if they've rolled it out and then discovered that something else is still wrong. There's fluid being pumped out the back with a breather pipe, the wheels going on the front. What would that be coming out the back?
Well, that's usually a coolant.
And he shouldn't have been working on the car. The other guy pulled him back and said...
You can have up to 2 people working on the car and the fueler and a safety operation like cleaning the windscreen. But if a third person joins in because he's lending a hand, then you're in trouble. However, they're in trouble anyway. And we didn't hear any more about their pit stop being investigated.
But there's a bit of a satellite delay in race control. It does take a while.
Yeah, but they have been in now. That stop must have been fully 20 minutes. And so they have now dropped down to 12th place, which is the last of the sort of coherent GTE Pro cars. Miguel Molina's delayed 71 car is 13th in the class, but 6 places further back. Alex Lynn, the 97 car, had a delay, didn't it? What was going on with that? Because I was just
97,
resting my eyes. Yeah, 97 Aston Martin. I heard Alex Lynn.
Hold on, caller. Keep talking.
Heard him being interviewed. All right, well, before we get to that...
Change your damper. Change your damper.
Change your damper. OK, I'm indebted to Michael Z on the tweet machine. I ventured that Phil Hansen might be the youngest driver in the race. In fact, he's not. He's the joint youngest driver because, get this, Julian Andlauer, the Porsche Junior driver, and Phil Hansen were born on the same day. So they are the joint youngest drivers in this year's race.
And they're 18 or how old are they?
Yeah, 18 years old, the 2 of them, born on the same day. And remember, we saw the SMP car having a new rear end fitted with a rear wing, and it was blue and yellow, and I was going, I know that colour scheme, and I can't think where it comes from. It is High Class Racing's rear end from their ELMS livery. In fact, the whole car is High Class Racing's ELMS car, but that spare rear wing clearly hadn't been wrapped in the SMP colours. So thank you to Sanderot, Tom Sanderot, for that. So, yeah, there's, you know, the great thing about this race and social media is that people all over the world know bits more than we do, and in a lot of cases an awful lot more than we do, and are more than happy to tell us.
Alexandros Anivas, good evening. I think that Buemi's penalty was a mistake from race director. Countdown and yellow flags or lights withdrawal. From the onboard, Buemi accelerated when countdown finished, but there were still yellow lights flashing. But it's too late because he's done his penalty, and that's that.
Yeah. Well,
you can't unpenalty him.
No, exactly. They can't give him 5 seconds back, and even if they could, they wouldn't, because there's not a rule for that. Second place overall, the number 8 car. It is Sebastian Buemi, of whom we just spoke, and piling past the Aston Martin. See, the Aston Martin's yellow, when you look at it in daylight, is not the Corvette yellow, but in onboard light, if that's a thing, it is very much the same colour.
Martin, Peter, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to try and rest my eyes.
Oh, don't worry, it'll be fine. I just had an hour's kip. No problem at all going to sleep.
Yeah.
Waking up, that's an entirely different thing.
That's the problem. I'll see you about 5 o'clock-ish or so.
I was going to say at O dark 100, but in fact that'll be O daylight coming over the horizon and already light time by the time you get back in.
I'll be squinting like a badger at noon by the time that sun comes up. I shall see you later.